With Liquor Barn, you can shop your favorite bourbon, that perfect bottle of wine, or discover something new. To place an order for pickup or delivery, download the Liquor Barn app, visit liquorbarn.com, or call your nearest Liquor Barn location. Follow us on social media and subscribe to our email list for all the latest news on products, promotions, and events. Liquor Barn, where Kentuckians go to celebrate life. Cheers!
Welcome to the Bourbon Life Podcast, your source for all things bourbon. Join your hosts, Mark and Matt, as they drink and review bourbons, share news about upcoming events, interview the who's who in the bourbon world, and, most importantly, bring you along for the fun of living the bourbon life. Now, here's your hosts, Mark and Matt.
All right, everybody. Welcome back for another episode of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and with me, as always, live in the Bourbon Life Studios is my good friend, Matt. Matt, how you doing, man?
Oh, Mark, I am doing so good, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. You know, I did the exact same opening that I did last week that I've done for the prior 108 episodes, Matt.
And that's perfectly fine, Mark. We all love it. We've all come to love it and appreciate it. And
you've come to grips with the reality that's never going to change, right? That's what you're saying.
Well, why should it? It is the perfect opening for the podcast. It's what the people are expecting.
It's what the people want, Matt. I'm just trying to give people what they want.
That's what they want.
That's the most important thing. But you are wearing a toboggan today, even though we almost got to 60 degrees, Matt. When's the toboggan going to come off? When we hit 78, 75, 80? What do you think?
Hey, I'm just giving the people what they want.
There you go. Hey, but at least you're wearing pants, man. That's a good thing, right? So
pants are on
in front of the fireplace, right. All warmed up here in the Bourbon Life Studios, man, and rip-roaring and ready to go. We're gonna have a great show tonight, man. I'm looking forward to this, Matt. I'm sure you're gonna be pretty excited with this one because this is gonna be all focused on a lot of rye. So this is right up your alley, my friend. So you want to tell everybody who we have with us tonight?
Let's do it without any further ado, because we've got rye poured up all three rounds, so I'm not going to waste any time. We've got the master distiller from Sugarlands Distilling Company in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, Greg Eidam. Greg, welcome to the Bourbon Life Podcast.
Hello. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, man. We're thrilled to have you. So how's things down there are you down in Gatlinburg right now?
Actually in our new facility in Kodak at the moment.
Okay. All right, cool. So how's everything down there today? Weather, you guys got some snow down there too. I follow LeConte Lodge on Facebook, and they like had 10 inches and like -5 wind chill. Crazy shit going on down there.
We got a little bit of snow, about 4 or 5 inches, I guess, over the weekend. So
very nice.
Not typical for us, but
yeah,
it was pretty.
Yeah, I'm sure it was, man. It's a gorgeous place down there. And I'm just going to tell everybody right off the bat, my wife and I got married in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, about almost 21 and a half years ago. So my wife has been going down there. I'm not going to tell you how old she is, but she's been going to Gatlinburg since she was about 6 months old. So let's just say it's been a long, long, long time, Greg. Okay.
Gatlinburg has changed a little bit over those years.
It has. You know, it's funny because every time we drive through Pigeon Forge, she's like, you know, when I used to come down here as a kid, the only thing out here was the KFC. But we love it down there. We love Gatlinburg, and I've been to your distillery, man. So I'm really excited on a personal note, not from a brand, not just from the industry perspective, Greg. I'm really happy to have you on the show. So I'm happy that you're here. Happy that we were able to set this up, man. So let's talk about what we're going to drink first. We got something kind of special poured up in this first round, a little unique for us here on the Bourbon Life. So, Greg, you want to tell everybody what we're going to be drinking this first round?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is our Jim Tom Rye Moonshine, which really is just unaged whiskey. It's at 100 proof. And as you'll see, as we get into our next round, we're going to pair that up with the aged version at 100 proof as well. So,
yeah, and it's an unaged rye moonshine, and it's sold there at the distillery as the Jim Tom. So, for people that don't know who Jim Tom is, can you share that information?
Certainly. Jim Tom is from the TV show Moonshiners, and he is definitely known as the rye whiskey expert. If you haven't seen the show, definitely check it out. Just some really, really good people, and Jim Tom is one of those guys that's been around a long time, been making moonshine for a very long time. He is a character. Very, very interesting guy, and he's our rye expert.
Yeah, well, I've never had the opportunity to meet him, but I watched the show and have for the past 11 years. It's one of my guilty pleasures in life, Greg. I love what I'm from Eastern Kentucky, the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. So to me, that was something growing up. You just knew about moonshining. So to watch the show, it's a lot of fun. But Jim Tom's one of my favorite characters when he's on the show. But so this was the mash bill on this. Can you tell us what that is?
It is. It's 51% rye, 45% corn, and 4% malted barley.
Okay, so this is if it as a rye whiskey, it's what I call a barely legal, right? It's just right over the line.
Yes. Yes.
There, yeah, definitely. So, Matt, what are you picking up on this one, man? On this moonshine, on the nose on it?
It's got a creamy nose. I pick up like nice, sort of a creamy, almost like marshmallow, but a lot of times when I think of marshmallow, when people smell and taste marshmallow, I think it's because of maybe a toast on the barrel that they associate with it. But this kind of has that sugary raw kind of marshmallow aroma to it. And then of course it's got the grain, picking up like a lot of the really nice natural earthen stone ground grain aromas to it. And then there's like a slight nuttiness, almost like a hazelnut or some sort of just a little bit of a floral nut, like almond or something.
Yeah, and I think what's surprising to me, and what might be surprising to a lot of people, is just how sweet this actually smells on the nose. Because when you think of moonshine, I think people have this preconceived notion of what moonshine is, or what it's supposed to smell like, or what it's supposed to taste like. And granted, this is a high rye, or this is a 51% rye. So, it is different. And I think when you say a rye whiskey, people think it's a spiciness, etc. And yeah, there is some spice on the nose, but man, the sweetness on this, it's almost like smelling like a cane sugar to me. I mean, it is so sugary sweet on the nose. But I love it. And if I had the ability to make something like this in the backwoods, I would do it in a heartbeat. But Greg, so what about you, man? In terms of the nose on this one, what do you pick up, or what are the things that stand out to you in terms of the nose?
Well, I would go with Matt and say the creaminess, definitely sweet creaminess. But I'm also getting bread notes, yeast, definitely some of that nuttiness you talked about in there, and a little bit of black pepper, which you would expect from the rye, but it's
Right.
mild in here. And then for me, of course, dealing with the rye, just the grain, but just the raw grains of the rye. I'm definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is really cool. So Greg, let's talk about you for a little bit. We've talked about the whiskey. We set that up, or the moonshine, I should say. We set that up, kind of discussed the nose on it. So let's talk about you. Let's talk about where you came from, how in the world you got from where you were to what you're doing now. Can you share that story with our listeners?
Certainly. Yeah, I'm really just average Joe that at the right place, the right time, the right friends. And anyway, I started out as a civil engineer at the University of Tennessee.
Oh no! Don't tell me that, Greg. Come on, man.
Yes. I know you're from Kentucky. And,
we're here in Lexington, man. You guys crushed me on Saturday, Greg. I can't even. Oh man.
Well, I won't apologize for that. But,
you shouldn't, man. Congratulations to you guys.
We haven't had a whole lot to be excited about here in Tennessee for quite a while, so
yeah,
you got to give us a little bit of something here.
I completely agree, and I was shocked to see last night. We went out to have a couple of beers, my wife and I, and they were doing the announcements, and Tennessee got the number 3 seed in the NCAA tournament, which, I mean, after winning the SEC the way they did, I don't understand how that happened. I mean, I really don't. And, anyway, you never know what the NCAA is going to do, right?
Very true. Very true.
But congratulations to you guys and the volunteers
Yes, thank you.
for winning the SEC tournament. Boy, that was hard
We're
for me
very
to
excited.
say, Greg. That was really hard. That was really hard.
Well, I appreciate you saying it. Thank you. We are very happy down here.
So
yes,
now, are you originally from Tennessee, or are you from somewhere else?
I'm not. Yeah, no, I was born in Idaho.
Oh, okay.
Lived
Right.
lived there probably about 9 years. We left and did a little stint in Boston for a year and a half. My dad finished nuclear engineering at MIT, and then we went
Wow.
back to Idaho for a while, and then we moved to Pennsylvania when the 3 Mile Island accident happened.
Oh,
And,
yeah. Remember that, man. For those of us old enough to remember that, right? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, it's been a little while now. So
Yeah.
yeah, so we moved to Pennsylvania, and then I was ready to go to Penn State. I was kind of following his footsteps, going into nuclear engineering, um, and then Dad got transferred to Oak Ridge, and so I lost my in-state tuition. So it was time to look for other options. And
Yeah.
Tennessee, University of Tennessee had a top 5 nuclear engineering program in the country, so it was a pretty easy choice to make. And Mom was real happy and promised laundry service.
Yeah.
So if I came to Tennessee, um, so it was a no-brainer. Came to UT, and really didn't know anything about Tennessee when I got here, and how it was very eye-opening getting here, and with football. Of course, back then basketball didn't really exist for us, but
Yeah. Right.
football was the rage, and
Sure.
of course I was used to Penn State, but really just paled in comparison to Tennessee football and the culture down here, and just loved it. So I've been here since 1989, and over half my life now, well over half my life, and I just absolutely love Tennessee. I've traveled 48 states, and I just love Tennessee. So I don't see myself ever leaving, particularly East Tennessee. Just the mountains, the lakes. It's beautiful. The weather's amazing. You get a little bit of winter, not too much.
Right.
Summer is great. Perfect time to be on the lakes. Not too hot. Just perfect. So I love everything about Tennessee, and this has been my home now. So.
Very nice. So when you go to Lake, you go up to Lake Norris there, or do you go?
Oh, I've spent a lot of time on Norris, Douglas, a little bit on Cherokee Lake, and then Melton Hill.
Yeah.
We've got a bunch of lakes around here. So
Yeah. And like you said, it's a beautiful place. I mean, it's a gorgeous environment. There's so much to do down there. If you're a hiker, it's great. If you want to, do some serious hiking, you can do that. If you're like me, you like to go somewhere easy and do a mile or two and see a waterfall, you can do that. So
yes,
a lot of great opportunities down there. So so you got to school, you're at UT, you go into engineering. So you said nuclear engineering? Is that what you went into?
I started in nuclear engineering, and about 2 years in, I realized that there wasn't a great career path going forward with a change in,
Right. Yeah.
The nuclear program in the United States and where things were headed. So I changed to civil engineering.
Okay. So you graduated from UT with civil engineering, and I guess you went into work doing that, right?
I did. Yeah. I spent 20 years as a civil engineer.
Wow.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. It was good. I like engineering a lot. What I didn't like is the industry as a whole is kind of where things were heading, and competing for the work, and kind of undermining the values of engineers and the standard of care that
Sure.
you really need to be applying in engineering. And so I saw some of that diminishing. And anyway, my best friend from high school, from college, from UT there, we'd talked for years about doing something together. But it's hard to give up a really good career and just
Sure.
take a risk and a
Mhm.
chance. And so, we really weren't, it was hard to find what that right thing was going to be. And then one day he called me up and said, what do you think about opening a distillery? And I knew immediately it was a no-brainer. there'd been talks about, a brewery. Really got into this because of when he graduated college, I bought him a home brewer's kit.
Okay.
And so we started brewing, and I'm more the anal retentive, looking after all the details and really figuring it out. He would show up, I'd have it ready to go. And we would brew together and of course sample our goods from the previous brew. And so we did that for a while. And then a really good friend of mine, Marty Velis, is a master brewer, world renowned, won a bunch of, gold medals, World Beer Festival and stuff. And started brewing with him and really getting into the science and really learning it. There's the art, but there's the science as well.
Sure.
So getting into that. And then, engineers get inquisitive and start thinking, what if you distill this, right? So you play around a little bit.
But we're not going to talk about any type of illegal distilling that may have gone on, Greg, in your past.
Right. That may or may not have happened. But yeah, so that leads to, so the brewing industry really had just, been booming and going crazy. And,
Right.
it seemed like there was a plateau there, that things were really going to kind of fall off. And so going into the brewing side of things didn't feel real safe. But when the laws changed in the state of Tennessee to allow distilleries, it was just brand new. It's in its infancy, and we felt like, the only way this could fail is if we failed. So,
Right.
Ned is really a genius. He's kind of master of everything, and he's already developed a bunch of businesses and been successful doing some of that. And so he had that business background and knowledge. And so in my mind, I just felt like, well, between us, and Ned has a habit of putting really good people together to
Yeah.
make a team.
Yeah.
And really that's what it comes down to, is people. And so he did it again, and he put together a great team of people. And 8 years, well, took probably about 2 years to get open, but now we've been open for just over 8 years, and it's been very successful, a lot of fun,
Yeah.
and just growing steadily.
Yeah. That's very cool. So last week we had a guy, he was younger, but kind of did the same thing, worked in management consulting, visited a rum distillery in New Orleans and decided that he wanted to learn how to do distilling and opened a distillery out in California, and pursued his dream, gave up his career, gave up the white collar job. His dad thought he was nuts. So
my dad was beside himself. He thought I just lost my mind. What was I doing? And then a year into this thing, he's, my biggest fan.
yeah, isn't that great, man? That's awesome. But kudos to you. And like I told the guy last week, I'm like, kudos to you for giving up, because I've been an attorney for 27 years, man. And there's a safety net there. There's a security blanket, and when you have a passion, you want to pursue it, but it's hard to get to that point. There's a line you can get up to, and then you got to make that decision. Am I going to cross that line and really do this, or am I just going to kind of toe that line and stay safe? And you cross that line, man. So kudos to you for doing that, Greg.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Matt, let's jump back to the Moonshine, to the Jim Tom. And I want to sing a song like Jim Tom does, but I'm not going to do that. If you watch Moonshine,
I would love to hear you sing a little Jim Tom.
Oh, my wife and I sit around and we'll watch the show, and we'll start doing imitations of everybody. So, we've had Tim Smith's been on the show. I did not do my Tim Smith imitation when he was on the show. And then I did a recording with Digger. My wife and I were down there last November, and I got to head over to hang out with Digger and did a show with him. And I did not do my Digger imitation in front of him either, but I keep drinking. I may end up doing that. Right? But so Matt, all right, let's talk about Jim Tom's Moonshine here. What do you think about it, man, in terms of the palate and the finish on it?
Sure deal. I think right away I get a nice big hug of cinnamon coming through right on the front of the palate, brings some heat, some nice flavor from the cinnamon, and then it's sweet. It's got the creaminess that we picked up on the nose, or that I picked up on the nose, I think kind of comes through again in the palate, but then it's sweet. And this is where I'm seeing that 45% corn come through. getting like frosted flakes
Frosted
kind
flakes.
of a note.
Oh my God, yes, dude.
Yeah, on the palate with this one. So
Yeah.
that's the sweetness is coming through there, and that corn is really shining on it.
Yeah, that's Matt. That's the one thing. Every time I drink it, I'm just like, my God, this is like drinking liquid frosted flakes, man. That corn comes through, but that sweetness. I mean, I swear, it tastes like you would think if you're drinking this, you would think that there's like sugar added. I know there's not, but I mean, you would think it's so sweet that there's sugar added to this, and that's why you can drink it. You can drink it neat. For me, this could be something that could be kind of dangerous for people, Greg.
It can be.
Oh my gosh! So in terms
You
of
mentioned before
Yeah.
moonshine and people, their perception, I guess, and it's hard to overcome that with people.
right,
But
Mhm.
when they try it for that first time, uh, good moonshine, and realize that it's very complex. There's a lot going on. It can be sweet, it can be spicy, it can be many things, and it doesn't have to just be gasoline you're pouring down your milk.
right,
It
Yeah,
really, there's a lot there.
yeah, and
rock
it's
rock gut moonshine. It's like what I always think of. Good Lord.
yeah, but it's funny you say that, Greg, because when my wife and I were down there in February, we came over and you guys were kind enough to set up a tasting for us, and we got to taste through the Roaming Man, which we'll go through here in a minute. But they also let us taste the Jim Tom, and I was just blown away with it. I mean, I was just absolutely blown away with how unique and how flavorful it was as a 100 proof, just as a moonshine. I guess I wasn't expecting that, man. So it's a great distillate, that you start with there. So it's going to be great to move on to see how it advances as it ages a little bit. So that'll be a lot of fun. But anything else that we missed in terms of the tasting notes on this one, Greg?
No, I think you got it. I really like the what did you call it?
The frosted flakes.
Frosted flakes. Yes, frosted flakes. I had not, but as
Yeah.
soon as you say that, it's like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what you're
Yeah, it
Mhm.
takes you back
what
to
you're
your
getting
child,
here.
like
Right.
being a kid and having your Tony the Tiger frosted flakes, man. That's
It has been many years since I've had frosted flakes, but it's funny how a memory, a nose, a smell can take you back. So that's
yeah,
exactly it.
that's what I love about whiskey, about bourbon rye. That you can, when you taste it, you can associate it back to things in your childhood, and it's such a cool trigger that brings back memories as well. And that's why I think it's so much fun sitting around drinking with friends and meeting new friends, like you, Greg. I mean, it's great to sit around and drink and when you taste something that kind of takes us all back to our childhood and those good times where having frosted flakes as a kid. But like you said, I've not done that in years either. So Matt, we're at the end of round one here, man. So let's get some final thoughts on the Jim Tom Moonshine.
That's good. I'm excited for our next two rounds as we've kind of laid out some backbone here to what we're going to be tasting moving forward. But I think, as we were mentioning early, moonshine sometimes has kind of a negative connotation, and so overcoming that and getting people to actually drink it, and not just to drink it, but in this case, to maybe explain to them that, well, what you're drinking is moonshine, but it's actually going to become whiskey. This is the exact same thing that this rye is that we're going to be tasting. So it's a fun project, fun experiment, and I'm excited to see where we're going in the next two rounds.
Oh yeah. But Matt, before I'm closing it out, that kind of leads me to a question, what you just said, Greg, in terms of the production. I mean, in terms of doing the moonshine, is that something that you have faced or you've noticed or dealt with as a distiller, that people have a perception about moonshine itself? Because you do whiskey as well, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But has that created a type of like a dichotomy? Your moonshine distillery, but then you're also putting out a rye whiskey. Has that caused some, not issues, but have you dealt with that?
I don't know that it's caused issues. The beautiful thing is we've got a distillery in downtown Gatlinburg where um, millions of people are walking by your place every year. And so we're bringing people off the street that, might curl their nose up thinking about moonshine, think, oh, moonshine, right? But they come in anyway. and they give it a try. And, it's funny, that first sample they take, it's like they're already expecting it's going to hurt, it's going to burn or something,
Hmm.
and then they get it and you can just see their face change, and by the time they get to the second sample, they're, hanging on every word our tastemakers are saying and learning about it. And just the energy around that sipping post, it just grows as they get from, one flavor to the next flavor of moonshine. And so they overcome that stigma that moonshine has. And then, then there's the whiskey. And we haven't had much of it. So it's not that it's out there in everybody's hands yet. But when people, realize, oh, you guys, you make great moonshine, but you've got all these crazy flavors, and it's just, that's kind of fun, and it is what it is. But now all of a sudden, yeah, you're making whiskey, but they don't necessarily expect the whiskey to be what it is.
Right.
Because, they're thinking, oh, yeah, you guys do moonshine. That's kind of your focus. So every time we've got that opportunity to, to sample somebody, and they, again, just like that first sip of moonshine where they were expecting something that it wasn't, now they take that first sip of whiskey and they're like, wow, you guys have really got something special here. So.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. It's like being an attorney from Eastern Kentucky. When you tell people you're from Eastern Kentucky, they're like, really? But it's like, yeah, well, I might surprise you. Just hold on. But, and I think we're going to be surprised. I think I'm looking forward to I've had the 9 that we're going to drink next. But this bottle is a fresh crack. So I'm really looking forward to getting into this one. So let's take a quick break, get a word from our sponsors, and we'll be back with more with Greg Eidam, the master distiller at Sugarlands Distilling in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, in just a minute. Located just east of Lake Tahoe and the Sierra Nevada mountains, Frey Ranch Distillery was founded by 5th-generation Nevada farmers. Our grain-to-glass bourbon is made using a 4-grain mash bill, including a non-GMO corn, rye, wheat, and barley, all of which is 100% sustainably grown on the 1,500-acre Frey Ranch. And our commitment to excellence shows with a recent gold medal win at the 2020 Whiskeys of the World and USA Spirits competitions. Find out more at www.freyranch.com.
The Stave Restaurant is a bourbon lover's paradise right here in the heart of bourbon country. Located at 5711 McCracken Pike in Millville, Kentucky, between Castle and Key and Woodford Reserve, Chef Kyle Klatka prepares amazing food each day that features an elevated Kentucky-inspired cuisine. With a full-service bar, great bourbon flights, and signature cocktails, the Stave is the perfect place to catch up with friends after a fun-filled day of touring the local distilleries. Be sure to check them out online at thestavekentucky.com or at Instagram and Facebook at The Stave Kentucky.
All right, everybody, welcome back for round 2, whatever you want to call it, period, round, session, whatever. Number 2 of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark. With me, as always, live in the Bourbon Life studios. I know, Matt, it's the same thing every show, man. You're laughing. I'm sorry. I got to do something different, right?
But we love it. Come on.
we love it. Okay. All right, man. I appreciate that, Matt. I appreciate that vote of confidence. Next week, we're going to give everybody a pretty good surprise, but that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to ruin what's going to happen. But anyway, Matt, how you doing tonight, man?
Hey, I'm doing great, Mark. About to give our guest away here before we even get to it. But Mark, I'm doing very well. And we have a great guest with us. We have Greg Eidam, the master distiller from Sugarlands Distilling Company in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Greg, welcome back for the second round here of the Bourbon Life Podcast.
Thank you, guys.
Man, thanks for sticking around, Greg.
Didn't scare me off. No.
All right. We're doing good, man. We're doing pretty good tonight, right? We've not scared one off in 110 episodes so far, so I think we're doing something right.
Nobody wants to be that first.
And consistency is good. So keep
going. That's right.
There you go. Thank you, Greg.
Consistently good is better than occasionally great.
Consistently good.
Right.
That's a good one, Matt. I like that. You're so good. You've got so many good quotes like that, dude. That's awesome. I like that. So, Greg, let's talk about what we're going to drink in this round.
Okay. Well, we've got Roaming Man Straight Rye Whiskey. This particular edition release for us is, 12. Sorry about that. Release 12.
Wait, which batch are we drinking? Hold on.
Yes. I already started drinking. So we have release 12 here, which is bottled in bond, so 100 proof.
And this is the same distillate. This is the same mash bill. of what we drank just in the prior session of the Jim Tom Rye Moonshine. So we're talking about 51% rye, 45% corn, and the 4% malted barley, correct?
It is, correct.
Okay, great. But the obviously the biggest difference is that this is aged, whereas the Jim Tom Moonshine was just unaged distillate.
Correct.
So a little bit different. So we can see what the impact is really of the wood, and what the aging does to that distillate. Matt, what do you pick up on the nose over there, man?
It's really sweet. The nose is really, really sweet. I pick up a lot of brown sugar, a lot of maple, vanilla. Definitely there's the oak coming through. Of course, having smelled the distillate and now smelling this and looking at it, and this is brown. The distillate, of course, was white. But the 4+ years and the barrel have definitely imparted a good amount of oak, a little smokiness to it as well. Now we're getting some of those toasted marshmallow flavors that I was alluding to. A lot of times when people taste marshmallow, they think of the toastiness, whereas on the Jim Tom, I think it was more just the sweetness of the marshmallow. But really, really nice nose. I'm really, really excited to try it.
Yeah, I'm picking up that, we're talking about childhood, we're talking about things, Frosted Flakes. Matt, you're going through your descriptors, and I'm sitting here thinking, oh, this smells like Topps bubble gum to me. Greg, I don't know if you ever used to buy baseball cards when you were a kid, and you open the pack, you had that pink gum, that crumbly stick of whatever that was covered in cornstarch,
whatever you call that.
Yeah, whatever it was, right? But it has that just that sweetness to it. But I picked that up not as a primary note, but everything Matt said, yes, I agree with. but a little bit, yeah. Matt gave me the eye roll on that one because he knows I disagree with what he says. But yeah, I picked up a little bit of almost like a nice sweet bubblegummy type of flavor. So, do we miss anything on that, Greg?
Definitely the big three: your caramel, your vanilla oak. Did you say maple? Because I definitely.
Yeah, Matt said maple. Yeah,
maple,
Matt picked up the maple on that. So
I'm getting like some milk chocolate.
Nice.
And cherry.
Okay. Yeah. You know what? I can, now that you see, and power suggestion is so influential, right?
It is.
I'm looking for that chocolate, but I'm not picking that up. But that cherry, definitely, as soon as you said it, that cherry just popped out to me. So I definitely can pick that up. Now this is 100 proof, so it's the same proof as what we just had in the unaged distillate, that Jim Tom's Moonshine. So now this one is 100 proof, but it's aged, and I think this was like 4 years and 7 months, I think is what I have on my notes on that. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. So on the nose, very pleasing, very easy to enjoy. Very sweet, like Matt said. That maple syrup really starting to come through as it sits in the glass a little bit longer. I'm starting to pick up more of that maple note on that as well. Just very
warm and creamy.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to describe it. Definitely. So, Greg, in the first session, we talked about you and how you kind of got into where you are, leaving that career, just walking out the door, giving the big F you to the man, heading over, hanging out with your friend, doing this new distillery, this idea that you guys came up with. So let's talk about the distillery itself. When did you guys, when you talked about, coming up with the idea, when was that?
Oh goodness, that was probably in 2011.
Okay. And then, so you guys worked toward getting set up. So when did you actually officially open Sugarlands?
2014.
Okay. So a few years there.
7, 8. Yeah. So that's right. 2014.
Okay. So you guys this will be your 8th year in operation.
Correct.
Yeah. And you guys are there in Gatlinburg on the main strip. Has that always been your location? Have you always been there?
Yes, that's always been our location. That was one of the reasons why I didn't feel like it was, just a crazy risk. Is Ned had, just the perfect spot
right
in downtown Gatlinburg, right across the street from Ripley's, believe it or not, right next to the Sky Lift.
Yeah.
And if you're driving into Gatlinburg towards the Smokies, you look up that long strip, and we're right at that inflection point. So it's just really a prominent spot in downtown Gatlinburg, and just a beautiful distillery with the stills up there in front, all glass front, so you can see the stills, from the street.
Yeah,
Really
it
just
is.
invites people in.
Yeah, it definitely does. So Ned just calls you up, and I mean, you've been brewing a little bit, and Ned, I guess, has been brewing as well. Is that correct? You said
Yes.
you got him.
Yes.
Okay.
We did it together.
Yeah. So then he's like, "Hey, man, hold my beer. I got a great idea."
That's right. We went from there to, we went up to Koval up in Chicago. They had like
Yeah.
Mhm.
I wanted to say it was maybe a 2-day, maybe 3, something like that. Little distilling kind of school, basically, to teach you not how to distill, but just all the different aspects of the distilling industry, from dealing with distributors, a little bit of marketing, TTB, all the different aspects of distilling. And
Right.
basically on the drive back from Chicago, kind of put the plan together.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. So you guys are like, "Hey, let's go to Koval. Let's check this out." And then you're like, "This is something we can do this. We can do this." So did Ned have connections there in Gatlinburg to find that location? I mean, because Gatlinburg, if people have been there, I mean, they understand there's just a huge strip. And that's where everybody goes, up and down that strip. And there's so many stores and so many things there. So did he have connections to I mean, because you have a prime location, man. There's no other way to say it. So how did he work that?
So Ned was born and raised in Sevier County. So, he's definitely, he knows the lay of the land. He knows,
Gotcha.
a lot of people, but he was actually he was in grad school, or actually in law school.
Those damn attorneys.
I think he was still in law school, or maybe I may have that wrong. Maybe he was out of law school, but he was developing this piece of property. So he was working with a development company, developing the Walgreens, which is next door to us.
Uh-huh.
And so he was developing that piece of property, and I was doing the civil engineering work on it. And we needed a construction easement from the adjacent landowner to finish that project up. And so he got to know the landowner from, I think it was called the Midtown Lodge, a very old rundown lodge there. And so he got to know the property owner there and struck up a deal for that piece of property.
And the rest, they say, is history, right?
That's right. And, and he didn't even envision this right away. Really, he built a parking garage on the back side of it. And,
right.
thought, well, he could at least
make a lot of money.
Make the money as a minimum, pay the land lease and, cover what he had in it, and, and then figure out what to do with the front part of it. And anyway, then this came around.
And then it just happened. We just built a distillery, and just, it just happened.
Now, I think you got to give a lot of credit to his wife, Jessica Vickers. I think she'd been pushing him, saying, "Hey, there's something with this distillery thing. You guys really need to, talk about this. You need to look at it." And so I think she'd been pressing him for a little while on it. So anyway, he finally decided, maybe it is time to look into that.
Well, and that's kind of cool because, I mean, you're talking about 2011. He opened in 2014. So you're talking about a time period where, I mean, bourbon and rye and everything, that whole craft distilling industry really hadn't taken off at that point, right?
No, it hadn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you guys are kind of going into some uncharted territory there, sounds like.
Yes. Yes and no. First of all, we're right there on the foothills of the Smoky Mountains,
right,
of Appalachia, and which is the home of Moonshine, right? And so, starting the distiller, we felt like we had something special because there's a story to be told with Moonshine and carrying on that tradition. It's a little bit of a dying art back then, and there was a story to be told. So kind of to pay homage to these moonshiners of old, it was just a good time for that, and a good place and a good location. So that's a great way to pay the bills and start things going.
Yeah, definitely.
And
so
once we had that going, then then our thoughts started moving, towards whiskey.
Right.
Now it took us about a year to get barrels because there was a barrel shortage at that time, and Coopers wouldn't even talk to us. So it took about a year for us to get barrels. So that allowed us to really kind of perfect mashing and distilling rye distillate. And so, that's not a bad thing. We didn't get barrels right off the bat.
Right.
I think it really allowed us to kind of perfect what we were doing. And we felt like we had something really special with our distillate. And going into that, Jim Tom, rye moonshine. And so when we got our hands on barrels, we got our hands on, some premium barrels. And so from day one of barreling, we've been working with just really good premium barrels. And I think we fully believe that makes a difference. And,
Yeah.
especially the air dried staves, that's huge. We toast the barrels before they're charred. We toast the heads. I think that makes a big difference.
Gotcha. So
We decided to, we're going to do whiskey. You have a lot of fun with the moonshine and all the flavors, but when
Right.
it comes to whiskey, we're going to take it very serious and
yeah.
do it right.
So was that the thought process when you started? Was it, hey, we're going to do moonshine, but you know what? Long term, we're probably going to move in. We want to move into doing whiskey, or was that even really part of the equation?
No, it wasn't. It was just,
Okay.
at first it was just the moonshine and, can we make a living, doing this? And then once, we went down that road and, anyway, we started seeing, I don't know, a little bit bigger picture and said,
Right.
of course, I think, we both love whiskey. That's kind of quickly we turned to that saying, this is something that we'd be really passionate about and want to get into.
So when you opened your doors in 2014, what products did you have out? What were you distilling and what was available at that time while the whiskey was resting? Or
of course,
it might not have been resting yet at that point.
You didn't have
the barrels didn't show up.
That's right. That's right. We were a year away from being able to rest anything.
Okay.
So the two primary things we were distilling was the rye distillate, and then also Silver Cloud, which is our really that's Prohibition moonshine right there.
Okay.
It's a sugar wash, very traditional, straight out of Prohibition days. Everything we do about that, again, not cutting any corners. We wanted to go back and do it exactly how it was, coming out of Prohibition, which was that sugar wash, sour mash type recipe. So that's what we did. And then, of course, we developed a bunch of flavors. So we had our apple pie and, good grief, we did a sweet tea and a lemonade. And we had, several, I don't know, we probably had 7 different flavors when we opened up.
Nice. Yeah. So you had a product there. You weren't sourcing, right? I mean, it was all your own
No.
distillate, everything you guys were making there. And you're making it there on site, correct? And there in Gatlinburg.
Yeah, we are. Now we are sourcing a grain neutral spirit for some of the moonshine flavors.
Are you? Okay. All right.
Yes.
Gotcha. And that makes sense, obviously, to do that. But
yeah, and
so
it makes sense from a standpoint of the pot still, which is again a very traditional, like the Scots Irish when they immigrated here. It's very traditional style pot still.
Yeah.
Now we've got a hybrid, so we do have a 4-plate column there, but there's no way we're going to rectify it high enough to produce, some of the flavors, are delicate. You got blackberry and lemonade, and if you don't rectify it high enough, it really throws those flavors off, and they're really not.
right.
They're not going to sell.
You're not going to remove enough of the congeners and stuff to get to a neutral
That's right.
grain, neutral spirit, right? So
That's right.
yeah, which makes sense.
So we
But
need
you
a good
guys,
neutral base to work with there.
yeah. But talking about that, I mean, you guys use a pot still for your pot still with the column attached, right? But you are using a pot still, right? So that was the plan the whole time, right? So no desire to do a whole big column still thing. What's the thought process behind going with the pot still? Is that homage to the moonshiners, or was it just from a practical business standpoint producing a better tasting whiskey? Or
It was at first it was really to kind of pay homage to the moonshine in Appalachia, right, and the Scots Irish that settled this region of Appalachia, and this was the type of whiskey still that they brought with them.
Right.
So, you know, when they immigrated here, that was part of their culture, their community. They, you know, every farmer had a still, or every farming community had a still. And you had that traditional whiskey helmet shape, you know, on their pot. And so we wanted to stay true to that heritage of making whiskey. So that's how we started off with our first, you know, 250-gallon pot still.
That's
And then
very nice.
it didn't take long, and we graduated to we added a 750-gallon pot still, basically identical, just 3 times bigger.
And that's all downtown. That's in your distillery.
That is
there
downtown, yes.
in Gatlinburg, which is, I mean, again, it's really cool. I mean, so many people, you know, it's funny. You guys are like at the epicenter of the most visited national park in the world, or in the country. I mean, you know, you got, I don't know how many, I saw the other day, somebody had posted about Yellowstone, how many visitors it gets versus how many visitors the Great Smoky Mountains get. And a lot of those people end up in Gatlinburg. So, I mean, you guys are right in the epicenter of all those visitors, and millions of people flow through there every year.
It's a great place to be. I think, and I don't know this for a fact, but somebody was saying that there may have been 14 million people visit the park this past year. I think with COVID, and in previous years, you were talking like 11, 12 million were kind of the typical, but with COVID, you had a lot more people getting outdoors and had the time to get away. So
sure. Yeah, that's great. So let's jump back to Roaming Man Batch 12. Matt, what do you pick up in terms of the palate and the finish on this one?
Nice cinnamon right at the start. Again, just like the Jim Tom, has cinnamon right at the front of the palate. Then it's sweet. It lends, that corn is coming through sweet again, but it's a nice oaky sweetness on it. It's got like good depth, good backbone, a little bit of honey, that maple's coming through, the vanillas as well. And then the corn, I pick up again, kind of like that sweet cornbread, or like a sweet baked corn product, like a corn casserole or something, just that like really nice, sweet, fresh aroma of like a nice baked corn product. Really good. I was so very, very impressed. I actually wish I hadn't short poured myself as short
Matt,
as I did.
You know, nobody else can see this, you know, because we don't do video, but I still have quite a bit of this bottle in here that I picked up.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to be a little greedier last time. Next round.
Yeah, man. I'm always happy to share. You know, the two things that stand out to me, Matt, we talked about that frosted flakes, right? So in the moonshine. So you get that corn comes through, and that sweetness, which is great. I love that flavor. That really dissipates on this, but the corn comes through again, but it's not like that. It's not a frosted flake type of corn. You can still detect a little bit of that. So that was one thing that stood out to me, really, from the aging process. The other thing is the fact that the spiciness that pops through on this as well, which kind of surprised, because I would, you know, when I think of a rye and I think of a distillate, I think it should be as spicy.
You would expect the barrel to mellow that down a little bit.
Yeah,
this is kind of the opposite experience.
Exactly right. That's really what stood out to me, was the fact that this is so much spicier to me. And you said cinnamon, Matt, and that's a great descriptor. I like that, because it is sweet. It's like one of those little red hot candies. Again, you get that sweetness, you get that sugary sweetness, but you also get that spiciness, but it is more of a cinnamon to me. So I don't know if that's coming from the barrel then, or if it's coming from just the distillate as it matures in the barrel. But it's kind of it's a unique thing. Those are the two things that really stood out to me on this, Greg.
Yeah, I think that pairing of sweet and spicy together makes it really different. Also, you know, just the mouthfeel to me, and just a long finish and just very rich, which, you know, I attribute to the pot still.
Those congeners. I mean, it's guaranteed. Hopefully, I mean, I think that's why people like to do the pot still. You keep those congeners that boil off at the same, you know, as the alcohol, and you're able to keep that thicker mouthfeel. And I think that comes through on this one. I definitely feel that the finish, though, like you said, and I didn't say that, Greg, it continues to go, that spiciness, but that sweetness, it's a great combination. And it's like my palate's flipping back and forth. It's like, nope, it's sweet. And it's like, nope, it's spicy. It's like, nope, wait, it's sweet. I mean, it's a really, really nice combination of effects there. Matt, what do you think, man?
Couldn't agree with you more.
Matt's going to come back in here and pour up round 3, and then he's going to grab another round 2.
Definitely going to grab some round 3.
Yeah. So let's talk about real quick before we take a break. You mentioned the barrels earlier. Now on this one, I know on the label, and I love the fact that, man, you guys are so transparent about what you do and everything on here. This one is 100 proof, but you've used 53-gallon barrels with the 3 and 4 char. So where do you guys get your barrels from? Can you talk about that? Or
Yes, certainly. Well, up until just recently, we've been getting barrels from Canton up in Louisville. We started off some barrels. These are all 53-gallon barrels. We also have used 25-gallon barrels from Calvin Cooperage.
Okay.
And some of their premium, kind of their wine barrel side of things. The key for us is the air dried staves. I think that's just really important. But yeah, also mixing the char levels and the toasted heads. So we've been playing around with that. We've also been playing around a lot with entry proof in the barrels.
Oh, okay. So, all right. So this one went in at a lower proof? Because I mean, you're at 100 proof. So I mean, do you go in at 125 or are you going in lower on this one?
This one, we went in at 110 proof, or right about 110 proof.
Okay.
Knowing that the intention here was ultimately we were going to cut it to 100 proof to do a bottled and bond edition.
Right. Gotcha.
But I didn't want to add too much water to that. So
sure.
Wanted to, give us enough proof for good maturation and then very little water to get it to 100 proof. So
okay.
Really get to experience, not cask strength, but we're not cutting it down too much.
Yeah, but still, I mean, definitely enjoyable. No doubt about it. Matt, final thoughts on this batch 12 on the Roaming Man Rye?
Absolutely. I've really, really liked it. Couldn't agree with what you were saying more, Mark. Yeah,
I was very happy to pick up. I mean, and the funny thing is, and we can talk about this in the next round, but I mean, this stuff sells out like freaking nuts. So it's like, you got to buy it when you can find it and you buy it. So when I was at Grains and Grits, I'm like, wait, you guys got batch 12 here? Really? You do? Okay. I'm taking a bottle. Let me have it. But yeah, so it's hard to find. It's it sells out really quick. So I was really happy to get a bottle of it, Greg. And this is really great. I mean, and it's so cool to see the difference that just the aging in the barrels and the time makes between what we just had as the first round of the distillate to what we just drank on the round 2 here. That's really cool.
Well, thank you. I'm really glad you liked it.
Yeah. All right, guys, let's take a quick break, get a word from our sponsors, and then we'll be back with more with Greg Eidam, the master distiller at Sugarlands Distilling Company in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, in just a minute.
Three Chord's line of whiskeys embody the spirit of creativity. The whiskey is a true collaboration between producer and composer Neil Giraldo and master blender distiller Ari Sussman. The 3 Chord team of expert blenders, coopers, and sensory professionals have developed a multi-step process they call Perfectly Tuned Taste. This process begins by carefully selecting the finest bourbon and rye whiskeys from Kentucky, Tennessee, and Indiana, and then blending them together. Find out more about the whiskeys and distribution in your area at www.3chordbourbon.com.
Spirits of French Lick crafts their spirits using only the finest agricultural product that has defined character, following their motto, respect the grain. They lead the way in representing the quality of the Hoosier artisan distilling process while paying tribute to its inseparable past. By implementing best practices from those early times, combined with modern touches, Spirits of French Lick has created a truly unique place in the industry. Spirits of French Lick products are distributed throughout Indiana, Kentucky, and Missouri, and can also be purchased online through Sealbox at sealbox.com. Visit spiritsoffrenchlick.com to learn more information and make sure to follow them on Facebook and Instagram. All right, everybody, welcome back for the third and final round of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and with me, as always, is my good friend, my co-host, Matt. Matt, are you ready for the exciting conclusion of the Bourbon Life Podcast tonight?
Hey, I have made it this far. I better stick around for the exciting conclusion. Are you, Mark?
Man,
are you ready?
I was born ready for this, Matt. I'm ready to roll, man. Let's do this. I'm excited tonight. This is great. I had a great time.
Absolutely. We are having a great time, and we are hanging out with the master distiller from Sugarlands Distilling Company in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, Greg Eidam. And we have got the third and final thing poured up. This is, well, I don't want to give it away right yet, but this is the kind of the coming of age of our experiment tonight, starting from the Moonshine, going to the bottled and bond. And now, Greg, what do we have poured up for our third round?
Very good. Yes, we have Roaming Man, Tennessee straight rye whiskey, and this particular one is cask strength at 119.6 proof, and it is release number 9.
Yeah, so we went a little backwards in terms of the releases, but we went forward in proof because 12 was 100. It was a bottled and bond 100 proofer. Batch 9 though was a barrel strength at 119.6. So again, though, we're talking the same distillate, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
51% rye, 45% corn, 4% malted barley.
Gotcha. Now this one's also a little bit different because, well, 2 reasons. One, the batch 12 was a bottled and bond. This one is a barrel strength. So can you kind of talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that we really like is cask strength. There's something about coming out of the barrel just full proof.
I agree.
you just can't beat that. Bottle and bond came about really. It's a great way to introduce people to your whiskey. So, when we pass this off to family and friends, and you've got people that aren't really just they're not whiskey nerds like we are. So
right.
How do you introduce them to it? So we felt the need to drop down. We didn't really want to drop down below more than 100 proof. Again, with the entry proof, we weren't cutting it too much, but that's a great way to enter people into this world and to start experiencing it. But if you're really wanting to experience the whiskey and it's, see the soul in it, right? It's going to be cask strength. So.
Yeah, and you drink a couple of these and you'll see some souls somewhere, right? I mean, goodness gracious, yeah, no doubt about it. But this is, well, I'm not gonna ruin it, but wow. Okay. Matt, what are you picking up on the nose on this one, man?
The nose on this smells a lot more like a bourbon to me than the last batch, the bottled and bond, where I think I got a little bit more of some rye characteristic. This has very characteristic sweet corn. I'm getting a lot of red fruit, like a lot of plum, a lot of stone fruit on it, like almost some raspberry or like some ruby fruit as well, like a little strawberry, something kind of juicy, but it's got kind of a red wine sort of nose to it as well. But the sweetness from the corn is coming across. And there might be like a little zest, maybe a little orange or something coming through that maybe the rye is imparting, maybe some herbal notes on the end. So some of the rye is shining through. I'm excited to see if it tastes anything like it smells, because I haven't tried it yet. But the nose on it is very much bourbon-like to me.
Yeah, that makes sense, Matt. And again, you're talking about 51% rye, 45% corn. Yeah, 45% corn. So you're not too far off from what, could be a bourbon, 6% off. But I agree with you, Matt. And, you're talking about the fruits, and I was picking up like a strawberry, like you said, that was coming through. But the sweetness it's very nice. The spiciness as well. And I'm picking up that cinnamon that we talked about on the 100 proofer. The cinnamon comes through to me on this one as well. I'm not getting like the maple syrup that we did before. That hasn't come out yet. I'm curious to see if it sits in the glass for a little while, if that note will kind of pop back out. But again, you're talking about almost 120 proof. So, probably going to get some different characteristics. But this blend, I said, Greg, earlier, there were two kind of different things. One was the proof. We went from 100 proof bottled and bond to the 119.6. The second thing is the barrels on this one, because the bottled and bond, it was the 53 gallons, and they were charged 3 and 4. But now this batch 9, this is a blend of the 25 gallon barrels that we talked about earlier,
Yes.
and the 53. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So there's a little, and this was actually a little bit, it's not aged as long. So this one, I think the blend, let's see, I made notes, 3 years, 8 months, and 3 years, 4 months. So,
Yes.
okay. So it's a little bit younger, but obviously a little bit higher proof. So what kind of drove, again, you talked about, going to a lower proof for that 100 proof to kind of make it more approachable, I think, to other people. Did the batching, did that play into the whole concept as well in terms of what you're mixing, or did you guys just stop using 25 gallon barrels? Or
Well, starting out, the only barrels we could get for the first couple of years were those 25 gallon
oh,
barrels.
okay, gotcha.
And so that's what we had to work with. And then moving forward, we switched to mostly 53 gallon barrels. Now, as we started sampling from the barrels, and then our first couple of releases, obviously, then were all 25 gallon barrels. We really liked what we were getting out of it, even when it was young. So a 25 gallon barrel was really, really looking nice at 2.5 years.
Okay.
So, we were very pleased with what we had there. Now, once they got to 3.5 years, I kind of felt like they were starting to get a little over oaky, which, is very common with a small barrel. So 25 gallon was the smallest we would definitely play with. But so in that 2.5 to 3.5 year range, felt like we were getting a really good whiskey out of it. So that's, a great way to start getting some whiskey out the door, experimenting, seeing what you're going to get. Of course, you never know what you're going to get. You put something in the barrel and you wait for years to figure out if you're going to
Sure.
have anything good or not. And so are you doing it right? Should you do something different? So you play as you go. And that's one of the things that, I think we do that we're really proud of, is we're very transparent. We share all this information.
Right.
We were a new distillery, certainly liked whiskey, but hadn't put any barrels away. We don't have, tens of dozens of years of history of barrel warehousing and blending and stuff. So, we're learning as we go. And we kind of wanted to bring our fans along with us on that journey. And so we put all the information out there, and, whether you like it or not, we didn't know early on, is this going to be good or not? And so you put the information out there and you share it. We just, got lucky. We, a lot of research, a lot of talking to distillers from all over the place, from, some, the Jack Daniels, the Jim Beams, across the board, talking to people to get feedback on what it takes to make a good whiskey, and, what are you looking for out of the barrels and all these things. So you put all that into something, and you hope that you're going to get something out good later.
Right.
And so for us, again, we started with those 25 gallon barrels out of necessity, because that's all we could get. And we were really pleased with what we were getting out of it. And so our first couple releases were only 25 gallon barrels, and we were winning some really nice awards and felt good about it. So then we got into 53s, hoping that, we're going to get something as good or better out of it. So we went through a period of time where we would kind of pull barrels and blend them together to get more of a complex whiskey and to get the right mix for each edition.
So when you're blending, let's talk about that process. You're blending. Are you blending trying to find a profile, or is it just that you're taking the barrels and you're just putting them together and letting them kind of guide you on your process?
We're definitely not trying to find a consistent profile.
Okay.
We're too young in our growth at this point to
Sure.
have enough barrels and enough different places in the warehouse and the barrel house to get a consistent profile every time. That's something that we definitely are striving for. I think that's that's something that separates good distilleries from great distilleries. Matt, you said something earlier. I said something about consistency. What was it you said?
Oh, consistently good is better than occasionally great.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So, there's a lot of craft distilleries that will put something out occasionally great. So our goal has been to put something out. If we can't be consistent with what it tastes like, in every single release, then we want it to be consistently good. So we're
Sure.
pulling barrels from the barrel house where we feel like it's, when you blend those together, you're going to have a good product
Sure. That
every
makes sense.
time we put something out.
Now, when you say barrel house, is that actually there in Gatlinburg? Are you putting barrels up there, or do you have an offsite, or can you talk about
We
that?
I can, no, certainly. Again, transparency. So we're very open about what we do, and it's a good thing because I'm not very good at keeping secrets. So Ned would really have trouble with me if I couldn't talk openly about what we do. No, so for the first, oh goodness, 6 years anyway, all our barrels were up in Gatlinburg.
Okay.
For a while, they were out right kind of in the window up in front of the distillery, and which was fascinating what you'd get out of the barrels. I mean, just the barrel up in the window, getting all that sunlight, so different than the barrel just inside of that doesn't get the same amount of sunlight.
Right.
So we had, it was kind of interesting playing with that and seeing what you get out of them. Then we moved them back further into the barrel or into the distillery. Then we moved them back into another storage building that we built behind the distillery. So they migrated from place to place over those years, and then we moved them out to Kodak about a year and a half ago, where our new distillery and barrel house is.
Okay. Now with this batch 9, was everything going in at 125? Because obviously this is 119.6. So were you guys barreling at 125 then?
We were barreling right at it was right at 120 proof.
Oh, okay. All right.
We had I think some just a little over, some just a little under there.
Gotcha. So you're losing just a touch. I mean,
Yes.
not much, right? So okay.
Right.
I that's what I wanted to make sure of. So you're coming out barrel strength at 119.6. Matt, what do you pick up in terms of the palate on this one in the finish?
Palate, good heat right away. I pick up really nice baking spices, a lot of cinnamon, a lot of nutmeg, a lot of peppercorn. Pick up cardamom, which is a favorite of mine to pick up in there. That a nice, like bright, crisp, kind of sharp flavor from cardamom. I also pick up some pie crust. I think it's got a nice kind of pie crust type flavor to it. And then some of that red fruit's coming through, some of the plum, some of the stone fruit, maybe even a little apricot from some of the rye is kind of leading its way through. But long heat on the finish.
Yeah.
Real nice. Yeah. Just killer finish.
Yeah. Honestly, man, I'm just sitting here. I just took a drink like 30 seconds ago, and I'm still just kind of just basking in the glow of the finish as it just continues to linger. And here in Kentucky, I mean, we call it the Kentucky hug. It's not a burn. It's just a nice warm feeling that I get, in the back of my palate down into my stomach. I mean, just a very nice warmth from this that spiciness, Matt. I'm still getting some of that cinnamon, the sweetness, the spiciness though does hit right on the front. And I'm, me, man, 119.6, man, that's right in my wheelhouse. So this is one I could easily drink this all day. And I'll never forget, we were at the distillery, Greg, and we're tasting through. And I can't remember the guy's name that was taking us through the tasting, but he was doing a great job. And I think we did 9, 10, 11, and 12. And I told my wife, I was like, shit, I got to get a bottle of 9. She's like, I really like 10. I'm like, okay, fine. I'll buy you a bottle of 10, but I'm getting a bottle of 9. And this was, I mean, honestly, this is a phenomenal whiskey to me. I absolutely love this one.
This is one of our favorites, one of my favorites for sure. It is a little younger. So
right.
when people start, oh, well, what's the age on it, and prejudging it based on age, if I pour this next to something else that's older, I think it stands up really well to it. And I was a bit surprised, but really pleased to see what we got out of this.
Yeah, I think experimenting with those smaller barrels in this blend really adds quite a bit of age beyond the statement that's on the bottle.
It does.
Yep. I definitely agree with that. So, Greg,
Now,
let's talk about.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Like a little bit of tobacco, a little leather kind of. I mean, you guys were hitting all over everything, that I was thinking. So,
Yeah.
I think the only thing.
Now that it's set in a glass for a little bit, I noticed that, it's funny because I said I wasn't picking up maple syrup, but right after I said that, the maple syrupy kind of aroma started popping out. But I do get a little bit of leather, and again, it takes me back to my childhood playing baseball, leather baseball glove. It's a nice aroma. I really like that. Matt, do you pick that up, or?
I don't know if it's coming across as much leather for me. Maybe like a touch of pipe tobacco.
Gotcha. Yep. Very nice. So, Greg, let's talk about the things that are going on. I mean, we can talk about the future as well, but you guys got some pretty exciting things going on now in the present. Can you talk about that?
We do. Probably about 5 years ago, we felt like, wow, we've got something really special here with our whiskey, but we have so little of it. We don't have enough to share. So we need to do something about that. And fortunately, Ned and our owners were all on board with this. And so we needed to build a new distillery. And so it's taken some time. We are nearly there. The building was finished probably 2 years ago. Now all of the equipment is in place, and we're playing around with just some, piping, little things right now. But basically, we've got a brand new distillery in Kodak, Tennessee, to be able to make a lot more whiskey. And the heart of that is our 4,500 gallon pot still. So we knew that we felt like the pot still is one of the reasons why the whiskey was as special as it was, and we needed to be true to that. And as we were talking to several engineers along the way, trying to select an engineer to work with us on the new facility, everyone was adamant about we needed to go to a column still.
Right.
It's so much, and it's so much more efficient, a lot less labor intensive. You're going to get a consistent product out of it, all day,
Right.
every day.
Right.
So there are a lot of things to be said for, column stills. And let's face it, the big boys are all running column stills and,
Yep.
making great products. So, but we felt very strong about the pot still and what it brought to the table. So, we worked with Vendom out of Kentucky there, as you're familiar with, and they just made a still exactly like we had before.
Man,
just
500 gallons.
Six times bigger. So,
God, is that the biggest they've ever made? I'm just curious.
It is not. So it's the largest pot still in the country, and they weren't for sure, but they said they thought they had made a bigger pot still for rum in the Caribbean.
Okay,
so they've got something maybe in the Caribbean that's bigger.
Wow. So how soon will that facility be open, you think?
We should run our first mash within the next 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
So a week later will be our first distillation.
Now, will that
with a little luck, in 2 weeks we'll be filling barrels.
Will that facility be open to visitors as well, or is that going to be more production and you're going to keep Gatlinburg kind of as your main place?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we're talking about this, and even up to the point that we started designing it, it was, we just need a place for production.
Right.
Down and dirty, prefab metal building, not doing, the special thing that, everyone's doing now with, distillery tours and stuff, just production only. And then at some point in the design process, I think, sitting at home, crunching numbers, working on something, and it just like hit me like, holy crap, this facility is going to be really impressive. And that was before I even realized that the pot still would be the largest in the country.
Right.
Long before I'd even thought about that. And so we're like, we're going to have to do tours here, but it wasn't designed for tours. So we're going to have to make some modifications. We need to add an elevator. We're going to have to do a few other little things to where we can accommodate tours down the road. But so the plan now is we're going to get this place operational. Let's start getting some whiskey in barrels. And then within the next, it'll probably be next year, we're looking at building another barrel house.
Okay.
And when we do, we'll add a retail component to it. And then we'll add the elevator and fix up a few things here in the distillery where we can bring people over and do tours. So I would say a year and a half. I don't know, the way everything goes with construction these days and stuff, somewhere a year and a half to 2 years away from being able to really do tours and bring people in on a daily basis.
So how far away is that from downtown Gatlinburg where you guys are now?
It depends on traffic. So, right. We are
good luck with that.
Literally, we're like 2 minutes off of Interstate 40. So exit 407, and you get off on the parkway there. We're just a couple minutes, going towards Sevierville and Pigeon Forge and stuff. And then depending on the traffic, it could be anywhere from 30, 35 minutes to, hour and a half to get to downtown Gatlinburg.
Yeah. But if you know the back roads, if you go down there enough, you know the back roads, right?
It helps a lot, doesn't it?
It really does, Greg. Yes, but I'm not going to give my secrets away for other visitors.
Right.
Oh my gosh. So let me ask you this. Back in 2011, you and Ned, you're talking about this, man. You opened the distillery in 2014. Did you ever think, here you are, 2022, did you ever think that you guys would be?
No.
I like your honesty and transparency, Greg.
Yeah, no, finish your thought, but no.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's crazy though. But you guys have had a lot of success. I mean, you guys have won, how many awards have you won with the Roaming Man? I don't even know, like a lot.
It's a lot. That's something I should probably know off the top of my head, but it seems like every week or two, something else. And I don't do social media myself. So usually I'm finding out after the fact that we've won something. We've just been really blessed. We've stumbled on something good. And again, we've got good people, a great team of distillers, and Ned's allowed us to, grow and develop and do things the right way and, age our whiskey traditionally and stick with the pot still and stuff. So, we've been
very cool,
really fortunate.
So if people want to come down and visit you guys, what all you have available right now? I mean, I know COVID kind of changed a few things. Tennessee has been a little bit different than Kentucky. Fortunately, that's why we go to Tennessee 3 or 4 times a year at least. But you guys have been a little more open with things, but where are you guys now in terms of like people coming down? What can they do? What can they experience there at the distillery?
We are a free state, so yes, you're welcome to come and have a good time here. And so right now at our distillery, we are doing tours every day, tastings. We've got our sipping posts are open with incredible tastemakers to kind of walk you through all our different expressions of moonshine, and you can do book a whiskey tour and go through several of editions of our whiskey and do a whiskey tasting. We've got the cocktail lounges open all the time. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Fun to do. You'll be entertained, from the moment you walk in, you're going to be entertained and have a really good time.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, if you're in the Gatlinburg area anyway, I mean, I would definitely say stop by because it's a great place to visit. My wife and I did it back in February 1st, as a matter of fact, to kick off the end of dry January. But we had a great time. We did the whiskey tour. We tasted several of the versions of Roaming Man, which we were very happy to do. And then we get to go up back there and have a few cocktails on the deck. It was warm enough that we could do that. So we had a good time hanging out there, man. It's a really nice place. It was just a lot of fun to hang out there and do some fun things. So Greg, what does the future look like? We talked about the present, the things that are going on. What does the future look like for you and for Sugarlands?
Wow, it's just positive, just very positive. I think that, this new facility is a game changer for us. It's going to allow us to produce a lot more whiskey and be able to get it in a lot more people's hands. So as you mentioned before, every time we release a batch, it is sold out, with it's like 15, 20 minutes kind of thing.
Right.
We've just started this last release, holding, so much back, especially from distribution, and focusing on sharing it at the distillery where we can, leak bottles out, over a longer period of time. And that way
Nice.
we can do the whiskey tastings. Something I forgot to mention a few minutes ago, something exciting that's coming up to look forward to is for those people that come to Gatlinburg, we are really renovating our whole production space in Gatlinburg, and we're going to put a speakeasy in. So that construction should start within the next, I would say, 3 to 4 weeks.
Nice.
The key was as soon as we get the new facility up and operational to where we're fully functional, then we're going to basically gut that whole space, pull everything up, redo the floors, the walls, and just really give it a refresher that it's desperately needed. We've worked it really hard over the last 8 years, and with all the, it's the only place in town you can get a behind the scenes tour.
Right.
And so, like transparency. So we've always shared everything that we do. So we've had a lot of people come back through that production space as well. So it's desperately needing a little renovation. So we're very excited to be able to do that now. And we'll put that speakeasy in. It will make for some really nice, small, I think it's going to be like 8 people maximum at a time. But intimate whiskey tasting experiences back there. And that's going to be a lot of fun. We're looking forward to that. So.
Very cool. Now, Greg, I saw something. I was stalking the website earlier today, and I saw something that was it said a day with the master distiller. It said it was currently unavailable. But is that something you guys will do in the future, or we have time to do that kind of thing?
Yes. No. Absolutely. We stopped doing it because pretty much my time has been 12 to 16 plus hour days, really trying to get the new facility up and operational. So as soon as we can get this up and operational, we can get all our distillers trained in the new facility. We're going to do that again for sure.
Great.
And that was a really fun experience. I got a lot out of it. Our distillers got a lot out of it, being able to hang with people. You bring them in and let them hang out for the entire day. Mashing, distilling, blending some moonshine flavors together and stuff. So it was a really fun experience. We all enjoyed it, and we'll bring that back for sure.
Well, you can count me and Matt in on that for sure, because once I saw that, I was like, damn, that would be an awesome experience to be able to go and do that and hang out with Greg for a day. So
I'd love to have you.
Awesome, man. Count us in for sure. So we are at the end of round 3 here. Final thoughts though, Matt, on this Roaming Man, the batch 9.
Absolutely. Great fruit flavor to it. Nice backbone, good heat. It hits every place it needs to go for me. It's a big old 2 thumbs up.
Yeah, I agree, dude. This is great. So Greg, next time I come down to Gatlinburg, will there be bottles of batch 9 available?
Not likely.
Damn it.
Not likely.
All right. Well, sorry to
Matt,
hear that.
I have to ask you though, I was a little nervous, you being a rye fan and all, being 51% rye, whether this was going to be enough rye for you.
I mean, for me, like I love a good bit of rye, but this has been a really, really great experiment to taste it and to chase out the rye flavors that I've become so accustomed to love it, because 95.5 is kind of, is right where I love to sit in those higher ryes. I like the Empire ryes, like a New York rye in the 70%. But it's fun to taste this and taste more of the interaction with the corn and see how they play together a little bit more when the rye is not blowing you out so hard with so much peppercorn or herbal notes, or so much like kind of a smoky or baked bread, yeasty type flavors. So this has been really good. I think, well, I know I'm impressed, but it's been fun to taste these, look back at the mash bill, and then see where the influence from the rye is coming in so heavily.
Yep, no doubt. And again, batch 9 for me, the winner. I mean, I love the Jim Tom Moonshine. I'm just going to say, I love that. I could drink that stuff fairly regularly. I really enjoy the flavor of it. I just, there's something about it that it's just an easy drinker, even at 100 proof. Man, this batch 9 though, it's a real winner for me, Greg.
Good. Thank you.
All right, guys. So before we close it out tonight, Greg, anything you want to add or anything else you want to throw out there?
No, thank you guys. I've had a good time. It's been great hanging out with you virtually here, and look forward to seeing you guys in person and getting you down here to have a good time.
Yeah, man, we appreciate that. Matt, how about you, man?
Hey, Greg, pencil us in. We'll be there.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Greg, thanks a lot for hanging out with us tonight. We really appreciate it. Had a great time tonight. We want to thank all of our sponsors, of course. Thank everybody that listens. We appreciate all you all out there, our fans, our followers. If you get a chance, leave us a review on iTunes. We appreciate that. Also, you can follow us, of course, on Instagram at The Bourbon Life and also on Facebook as well. So please just give us a follow. We appreciate that. And with that said, I'm going to wrap it up. Send us home with our tagline, which is, may your glasses always be full and may you keep on living the bourbon life.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Bourbon Life Podcast. Our mission at the Bourbon Life is simple: to share our passion for all things bourbon with you every week. And we'd really love to hear your thoughts on how we're doing. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at The Bourbon Life. You can also contact us by email at thebourbonlife@gmail.com. And you can always find us on your favorite podcast platform. If you have a moment, we'd love it if you would rate us and give us a review. So until next week, we hope your glass is always full and that you keep on living the bourbon life.
Whether it's rye, sour mash Tennessee whiskey, or bourbon, Davidson Reserve has something delicious to offer any whiskey lover's palate. Pick up a bottle of one of our award-winning Davidson Reserve whiskeys from your local retailer today. Visit www.davidsonreserve.com for more information. And cheers to drinking local.